Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and another episode of Dump and Chase. We have a lot to talk about in this podcast, from the Carolina Hurricanes sweeping another team in these playoffs, various other NHL series that are going on in these playoffs, as well as the NHL lottery draft, which took a interesting turn. We're going to go over everything, who I think should pick who, and a lot of news in between. But before we get into that, make sure you go like, subscribe, ring that bell, and comment. I want to hear what all of you have to say, because I truly do care about all of your feedback, whether I missed something, whether you didn't agree with what I said in this podcast. Let me know, because I want to hear from you. But that's not wasting more time. Let's get right into the video. And the first series to end of the first round, should we really be surprised considering how good the Carolina Hurricanes have been? 4-0 sweep from the Carolina Hurricanes against the Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah, this was tough. I mean, I really did think Carolina was going to win. I had them in 6 games. And the Flyers, I wasn't expecting them to win. I didn't think they were going to win, but I thought they would have put up a fight. I think when you look at who was producing for them, they had some young guys in Porter Martone and even Bump contributing, and that happened throughout this series. But the bigger names that just weren't there, like another guy in Matvei Michkov, we talk about how tough of a playoffs it was for him. He got scratched a couple times. He just wasn't as impactful, and you're kind of left thinking, okay, well, if Rick Tocchet isn't going to play him as he wants, then how is this going to go? Because just keep in mind that when it comes to a guy in Matvei Michkov, this wasn't a playoff thing. This was a full year thing where maybe his minutes weren't what people were expected for him to develop. He wasn't exactly producing. I'm pretty sure he still had, what was it, like 40, low 50 points, which is still good. But if you just end up being a 50-point guy, which is not what he was expected to be, this is what we're talking about, an 80, 90-point guy possibly, at lowest a 70-ish point guy, you're just not getting that anymore. So yeah, there was also that aspect of Matvei Michkov not producing. It looked like Dan Vladar, he still played very well, I think, everything considered. And this is also factoring in him playing injured, which is also just crazy. And then there's the Carolina Hurricanes, who won. Shout out again this second line of Logan Stankoven, Taylor Hall, and Jackson Blake. They continue to lead the playoffs in those respects for the Carolina Hurricanes. Taylor Hall, 12 points. I think he was top 3 on my Conn Smythe list. A lot of these goals and plays don't happen without him. Jackson Blake has been very timely with how he's contributing, especially at the goal side, even though he only has 4. And Logan Stankoven, it feels like he's just finishing off every play, and he's been really, really good. And keep in mind, for the Carolina Hurricanes, like their opponents, in Ottawa and Philly, it's going to be different when you get, and this is assuming they go to the finals as well, but it's going to be different assuming you get a team like the Sabres or a team like Montreal, because we know that they score a ton, right? So this is going to be a little bit different to see how that blazing offense goes against a team that can really try to shut you down. And then when you go to the finals, depending on who you get, likely Colorado, that could be very different, right? So this is going to be interesting how they do. But with players like this is also factoring in 8 wins, 0 losses, where Seth Jarvis is a half point per game, Sebastian Aho is a half a point per game. Like, a lot of these names right here, you're expecting a little bit more out of them, and you really just haven't gotten that. Like, Ehlers, I think, has been timely with his points, but he hasn't been, overly productive, which, on a team like this and how we've seen them over the years, it's not surprising considering everyone just seems to chip in from top to bottom, whether it's this guy has a point, but it's really in a really good spot, or someone just pops off, like Keandre Miller. I think he's been very effective in this series. He's almost averaged 24 minutes. He's 23-44, and he's had 6 assists in 8 games. He's been good, right? So this is, I pretty much all of this to say is that second line has been good for Carolina. Now imagine if that first line gets going as well, right? And then there's one other thing, the goaltending. So we talked about a guy in Dan Vladar, 922 finishes the playoffs, 4-6. He had 2 shutouts. He was very good. Everything considered, Dan Vladar was very good. Sucks to see how they went out. They just couldn't get anything going from Philly's side. But then there's Frederik Andersen. a 950, a 112. He saved 191 of 201. Last time I checked, from his goals saved above expected, it was like a 10.6. I assume it's probably something like a 10.9 or maybe an 11. He's been stellar. And this was a guy who had, and I did a recent video on this, this was a guy who had an 874 in the regular season. He was not good. It was in the negatives for goals saved above expected. His goals against was above a 3, I think. Like, it was not good for Frederik Andersen. His career, everything considered, has been on a slow decline. There's been times where he's really shot up and actually been pretty impactful. I think we saw that a couple of years ago. It may have been in the play. I think it was the regular season, actually, where he played maybe 15 games because of injury, and he was stellar. But for a guy in Frederik Andersen, right, like, we're always expecting, like, some type of injury, some type of blunder from him. But yet, every game, from the first round to the second round, he has allowed the same amount of goals each game, and he's only allowed 10 altogether. He has been insane. And yeah, you can maybe attribute that to the Carolina Hurricanes defense and maybe just how they run their systems. Of course, that helps. But it's also not easy to put up these numbers. You can be on a very good defensive team, have a pretty terrible night, and still win because that team is taking away most high-danger chances when you whiffed on one that you're supposed to save. So these numbers, what he's done, crazy from Frederik Andersen. Will it continue like this? I'd say no. But, I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. It gives me Bubble Demko, except longer-term feel here. So, yeah, the Carolina Hurricanes have been so good. Now, for Philly, how they're going to continue here, like, they have a couple of good young names in the system, and we're seeing it right here. Bump's taking a nice jump this year. Tippett, he was hurt. He wasn't really able to make a big impact on this series, I think, physically, and the way that he can be productive was missed. The center depth down the middle, it hurts, right? Like, Trevor Zegras is very offensive. You can only do so much. We saw his frustration at that one intermission where it just looked like he was beat. Travis Konechny is another interesting case where in playoffs, he's been very productive assist-wise, but scoring-wise, which is his bread and butter, he just hasn't been great. I'm pretty sure he only has like 2 in his career, which is nuts. Tyson Forrester, I thought, took a nice step. Jet Luchenko got here late, same as Bonk. Both of them kind of coming into this came here late, I should say. Like, they just weren't able to make as big of an impact as I think they probably would have wanted to. But again, like, how are you going to do that in the first round versus the second? That's really where you had your kind of stoppage. And yeah, I mean, the Flyers, they're in an interesting spot where you need more talent. Like I mentioned, like Matvei Michkov is not even in here. Porter Martone, everything considered. Like, you're not expecting a ton from him because this is his first season. And, like, I know a lot of people may say, well, look how he ended the regular season. Look how he contributed in pretty pivotal points in the playoffs. Yeah, I'm not saying he was bad. I'm just saying you can't expect him to pop off and have, be like a 1.2, 1.3 points per game or 1.5 points per game. Like, that's just not going to happen, right? I see a lot of people making that kind of thought. It's like, well, he's supposed to be the star player. Yeah, he just got here from university, and he was still really good, everything considered. So, like Denver Barkey, I really liked his game. That fourth line of Garden Hathaway, Luke Glendening, and Sean Couturier was so effective. I think it did lose its momentum in this series, but I still think it did a pretty good job throughout these playoffs, being an effective forechecking line that can hem a team in their own zone, which you don't see much from fourth lines, and sometimes create some scoring chances. So everything considered, not bad from the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm interested to see how they take this. I hope they don't buy big or really think that they're farther along or closer to than what they are. Like, this was a team that no one expected to make playoffs, same as Pittsburgh, same as a couple of other teams. I hope that they kind of stay this course, figure out their young depth, draft well. That's where you need to go. Don't rush this. Like, you've had some good pieces step in here and do the job that you've needed them to. but don't rush it. Like, do not rush this. You're not as far along as I think they want to think. This was good, but just, keep expectations tempered. We'll move on to the next series here, which is Vegas. Anaheim. Yesterday, Anaheim wins 4-3 in a game where it was really back and forth. And the Ducks just always had an answer. Like early in the first period and into the late parts, Beckett Seneca scores. A couple minutes later, Pavel Dorofeyev picks up a rebound. And then there's Mikael Granlund sneaks one by. And I think that was the deflection goal. And after that, it's back and forth. Like Brett Howden, I cannot say enough about how good he's been in these playoffs. That was his 7th goal, and he's been such a good piece in that bottom 6 for Vegas. Ian Moore ends up getting the game winner, and that was his first ever Stanley Cup playoff goal. Shout out to him. The goaltending has never been insane for both sides. It's been very wishy-washy. Carter Hart, towards the end of that Utah series, he really settled in. At the start of this series, he settled in. This game wasn't great. Lukas Dostal, not in Game 4, but Game 3, he got pulled for the second time in the playoffs. Before, he was not bad, right? Like, we're getting these, is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad in the goaltending? That's not what you need if you're both sides here. But that is the reality. Like, that is the reality. And I think for them, this game has been pretty physical. I posted a picture of blocks and hits leaders and PIMS leaders. Vegas was top in blocks and hits, like they were right there. And that's a big contribute to the third and fourth lines, guys like that. Other guys like Braden McNabb, who's played a big role in blocking, same as Shea Theodore. So Vegas is doing all the right things perimeter-wise and making sure that it's not going to be easy for Anaheim. But Anaheim is sticking in there. This was a team that I thought was going to be knocked out in 5 games to the Edmonton Oilers. I liked them. I don't hate Anaheim. But I just felt like it even with the Oilers' struggles, Anaheim also wasn't that consistent, right? So I wasn't expecting something like that. Like, that was bad from the Edmonton Oilers. And Anaheim played well. Their scores came to play. A guy like Alex Killorn has been very, very good and very effective. He scored one of the goals in this game in Game 4. And even another guy, like when we talk about up top, like Beckett Seneca has taken a nice step. He hasn't been totally productive, but if he can get going, that'd be great. Mikael Granlund has played a really nice role. Like it's been a nice mix of these young names and guys like Leo Carlsson and Cutter Gauthier who are really starting to get into their solid play and have been doing that for a while, but I'm talking taking it to a next level. So a mix of that young talent versus these older names who are also contributing. Like Chris Kreider hasn't been to the level of the Alex Killorns or the Mikael Granlunds, but names like that who are older but have this experience, mix that in with a John Carlson who's also been decently productive. I think for Anaheim, like, it feels like everything's working again. If you can get that goaltending, just timely saves, that's all you're looking for, that's the biggest difference. That's kind of what they got here. Like, it wasn't a high shot game, but exactly what you're hoping for is just the scoring to come through, make those saves when you need to, make those defensive plays when you need to, and things are going to work out. Like this is truly going to be an interesting series. You talk about a good bounce back from Anaheim as well, 4-3 after you get bounced 6-2, especially with the game at home. That's tough, right? So these games have been close for the most part outside of Game 3. I'm excited to see how Game 5 goes back in Vegas, but it should be good. It should be good. Tied series. Shout out to Mitch Marner, who even in this loss, 16 points. That's a new career high when it comes to his point production in the playoffs. And we'll look at it right here. Like, the highest he had was 22-23 in their playoff run. That was when they, I think it was when they bounced Tampa, went to the second round against the Panthers. Not good. They were the favorite, and just it was not great. But yeah, 16 points in 10 games. I think you can attribute some of this to the opponents that are worse in this case. I'm not going to take it fully away from him because, again, this is still very impressive. He had a hat trick. He's been scoring more. That's a new career high in the playoffs when it comes to goal production. almost at the amount of assists that he was at, probably going to get to there. He's been really good. And that's not even, I'm not even talking about his defensive metrics as well, but just offensive strictly. He's been a great contributor for them. Now, again, you face Anaheim, you face Utah. Those teams are worse than the teams that they faced in the past. Of the Boston Bruins, who have guys like Patrice Bergeron, of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have the good defense. Guys like McDonough, Hedman, Point, Kucherov, like all these teams. The Florida Panthers, guys like Anton Lundell, Alexander Barkov, the deep teams like this. And again, I'm not trying to create excuses for the Toronto Maple Leafs and their constant, just stoppages of playoff performance. But this is where we get into it, where Marner is now 6 points above a point per game. And we just haven't really seen domination like this. Like, he's still played less games than his two highs in terms of going to the second round, and he's already at more points. He's already at more goals. He needs just one more assist to tie that amount. Like, he's been productive. So shout out Mitch Marner. We'll see how this goes. If Vegas moves on and they face a team like Colorado, Minnesota, I'm excited to see how that could go. But next series. Yet again, another game yesterday. The Montreal Canadiens beat the Buffalo Sabres 6-2. This was an interesting game, everything considered. Like, you look back to Game 2, where Montreal wins 5-1 at home in Buffalo. Talk about setting a precedent after the first game, right? Where, you have some shots on net, you can't really get anything going. Buffalo's shutting you down when they're literally just scoring on every chance they get, even though they weren't insanely productive from that case. Montreal came out here with all the hype, with all the pressure. These fans have been waiting for it. They put 36 shots on net, 6 goals. One of them was an empty net goal, to be fair, but 6 goals. And you just love to see that type of production. Like, Bolduc from that nice pass of Joe Veleno, turnover, bad turnover, bad play from Logan Stanley there, right in front of the net. Line probably should have had it, but it was a weird play where he's going from his left to right, trying to square up against the puck. Probably went a little bit too far, tried to squeeze it, couldn't. Cole Caulfield, that's a massive goal for him. That's his second goal in the playoffs. You're hoping for a lot more production from him, but in that case, that's tough to see. You don't want him to be falling behind, and yet he gets that goal. You could tell he was so relieved after, in that same play, that same situation where he gets a nice pass, rings it off the post, doesn't get a ton on it. If he gets everything on it, I think that goes in, to be honest, but rings it off the crossbar, gets the puck back, wide open net, puts it in. One of the more easy goals he's going to get, and exactly the one you're hoping for from Cole Caulfield. So, yeah, pretty good. Buffalo starts this one off really early, 53 seconds in, shot wide of the net, goes right on the stick of Tage Thompson at the side of the net. He's going to put that in the back of the net, and you're thinking, if you're a Buffalo fan, you're saying, this is perfect, especially after what was a 5-1 game at home. You need to quiet this crowd and start it off right. Montreal, they settle in. They figure it out. They score later from Alex Newhook, who's been really good, in my opinion, on a couple sides of the puck. Yuri Slafkovsky hits another one, Kirby Dach, and then, of course, Newhook gets another one in the empty net, and it's game over. Jakub Dobeš, we'll talk about him next. He's been so good. 9-18 in these playoffs, 2-1-3. In this game, saves 26 of 28. He has another win. These playoffs have been really, really good for him. It's insane what we're seeing from him through the 10 games that he's played. He's taken it. He's taken this opportunity and ran with it. And not every game has been insane for him. Like, you talk about game 1, on 16 shots, he allowed 4 goals. That's tough, especially after, what was emotional games of Game 7, Game 6 especially, where you're trying to end that one at home, and that's how it ends in overtime. That's really tough. He's been solid. I think that's all you genuinely can hope for from a guy in Jakub Dobeš, who, let's keep in mind here, is 24 years old. That's young for a goaltender coming into this area, right? So, especially as a guy who was not seen as some franchise-level guy or a high-level starter, This was a guy who, at the start of the season, along with Samuel Montembeault, who I don't know what's going on with him. It's been a really tough year, but along with him was going to spot start. It was going to be some split starts. Maybe Montembeault gets more. We'll see how it goes. Montembeault ends up not doing as well. Dobish walks in. Although it wasn't an insane season numbers-wise, he had a 901. He plays 43 games, has 29 wins, went 29-10-4. I don't think off face value stats it does him any justice, because I think he was actually playing a little bit better than what those stats show. And we're seeing that in the playoffs. Like, he's playing out of his mind really, really good. And this is exactly what you're hoping for if you're the Montreal Canadiens. Now, one thing I'd like to keep in mind here, the points. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and Juraj Slafkovsky. That first line, look, they've scored when they've needed to. I don't think you can ask much more in that case, like just putting it in the back of the net. But it needs to get going at even strength. Like it really does. Like a lot of their points, half of their points have been off the power play. Like, again, capitalizing on the power play, fine, do it. If you have those chances to take advantage, go ahead and do it. I'm not criticizing it that much. I'm just saying, if you're hoping to really take a stranglehold in this series, and you have Buffalo somewhat on the ropes right now with those 2 wins, those demanding wins, you have to hope that if you can just get some 5-on-5 even strength play going, even strength scoring going, and this also goes back to a guy in Cole Caulfield who has 6 points, 2 goals in 10 games. Like, you need a little bit more from him, everything considered. Again, not trying to criticize, because where someone lacks, someone's going to step up. You need that production. I think you need that production so much. Cole Caulfield, this guy is a 50-plus goal scorer this past season. He was confident. He was good. Hasn't been as confident. Gets one there in Game 3. You're happy about it, but you want more from him. You want more from that first line at 5-on-5. And I think if they can just settle in, like, that was one of my X factors, was that first line going. I think that's all you could hope for from the Montreal Canadiens and Cole Caulfield in that first line. We'll move on to another series, the last one when we come into something like this, and it's the Minnesota Wild. They win 5-1. 5-1 in Game 3. Such a good game. Now, like, this wasn't a game where Colorado was bad. Like I shouldn't say they weren't good, but they had their chances. And a guy like Jesper Wallstedt, after Game 1, which was bad, he doesn't start Game 2, Gustafsson gets it, he doesn't win, played really, really well. And the Minnesota Wild took over. Like, I had a lot of people who were Wild fans message me, and they were asking me, like, what does Minnesota need to do to get this going? Like, what needs to happen for them to win Game 3 or get back into the series or make it a series, or however you want to say it? I said, if you're going to win one of these games at home, and again, this is Captain Obvious right here, you got to win Game 3, right? You don't want to go down 3-0. You win Game 4, okay, whatever. You're still down 3-1. That's a hard hill to climb no matter what. But in this case, you win Game 3. You set the tone early. Like, we talk about the goals that you need from certain people. Leaders on this team have been guys like Cole Kaprizov and Quinn Hughes, who are highest, either leading or highest in points for the NHL playoffs, right? Cole Kaprizov gets one, assist by Quinn Hughes. Kaprizov ends up starting that play and then Zuccarello gets it over to Hughes. He scores. Quinn Hughes in this game was insane. You talk about that one goal that he had. Elite edge work, skating, and the way that he sees the ice is sometimes a million times better than any defenseman in the NHL playoffs. It's crazy. And I think that's the same kind of pedestal that you hold a guy like a Cale Makar to, that offensive IQ, that skating ability, the elite way to see the ice. Like, twisting, turning, using it well, making space for yourself while doing that, which is nuts, everything considered. He was so good. And, it kind of snowballed after that. And the one pivotal, I think, most pivotal part of this game was Minnesota's up 3-0. Ryan Hartman gets one. Later on, Nathan MacKinnon scores on the power play. Now, up to this point, Minnesota was 2 for 2 on the penalty kill. Really, really good. Exactly what you're hoping for. You want to be shutting guys down like that, especially Colorado, because that's where they feed. You don't want them to get that going. They score. It's 3-1. And what happens 20 seconds later? Brock Faber scores, gets their 3-goal lead back, takes the momentum right out of the Colorado Avalanche. Game over. Like the Boldy goal, the empty net one, like we're not even going to talk about that. It's that's what it is. Like it's 4 seconds left, right? So that's not to take away from the idea is like it was a dominant game, but right there I think is such an X factor is whether you score or not after a team who's down finally gets one. The next shift is so important, right? Because after they score, especially in the playoffs, you want to build off that. You want to build off that momentum. Have a good shift. Make a big hit. Make them know that we're here and that we're not just going to die out of this game and let you have this one. So it's so important that when the opponent scores, you're going to have a good shift or a better shift. You're going to outwork them because you're going to say, yeah, you know what? We may have given up one, but that doesn't mean that this is just going to continue. This is not going to be the same thing that you're hoping for. So important, so important that you get that type of play, that goal quickly, of course, but just a good shift, a good play. The goal helps. You go back up 4-1. You kill that momentum. So important for the Minnesota Wild. That's exactly what you need to be looking for in Game 4. This dominance, you don't need to be this dominant in terms of scoring, right? But slowing them down, knowing that you're there. Minnesota has been really good being physical. Now keep that going in terms of just good shifts, solid shifts, right? Don't allow anything, be very stingy. That's hard to be against Colorado, but just be tough to play against. That's exactly what they did here. That's what they lacked in Game 2. Both sides lacked it in Game 1, to be honest. It was more of an offensive kind of threat, but if you know what I mean by this, it's easy to see. And we'll go and look at the points here as a final thing before we move on to the NHL lottery draft. How good some of this has been. Mitch Marner, we talked about him, 16-10. Kirill Kaprizov, 14-9. He's been really good making plays. I think arguably, I talked about this with the Conn Smythe. Some people said that Quinn Hughes has been better than Kaprizov. A lot of people have been comparing points. I saw one comment. I haven't been able to answer it yet, at least up to this point as we're filming, where, one guy said, well, I can't remember who it was, but they talked about how points isn't everything. I think it was Jack Eichel being better than Marner. Like, points isn't everything. Well, yeah, that's true. I also think that Mitch Marner has been good defensively. I think that he's had a good stick. I think that he's played well, which is why he's high up there, right? Like, points are a big thing in the playoffs, of course. They're not everything. But for Mitch Marner, who's been great on both sides of the puck, same as Jack Eichel, I think Marner's been better. And again, the disparity between where both were was a big difference. I think I had Marner at 2 while Jack Eichel was at like 8 or 9. But again, it's a list that fluctuates a lot, right? Like Taylor Hall has played 8 games. He has 12 points. I think he's number 3 on my list. I had Frederik Andersen at number 5. McKinnon was at number 4, right? So how each of these players are going to slot in, do well, be productive is a big thing. Like Matt Zuccarello has 9 points in 6 games. He missed some games in the first round. He's so effective. Tage Thompson, him getting going scoring-wise is going to be big for Game 4 against the Montreal Canadiens, right? Like, we were talking about how Montreal was going to handle a different feel to the series, right, against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, Tampa Bay could score, but they weren't really doing it. They were just being very stingy defensively. And Montreal was able to break through that. Now, they didn't score a ton either in that series. But then we look into round 2, like, how's Buffalo going to look? It's been pretty much the opposite for Montreal. They've still been good defensively, but they've scored more. Buffalo's given up more. They're not as stingy that way, but they're a high-scoring team. They've not been able to break through to Montreal. I think that says a lot. Tage Thompson, like, you just get another one. He had one in Game 3. You gotta have another one in Game 4. I know it's a lot to ask. It's maybe unrealistic. I get that. Again, you're asking a lot from a guy. You're hoping for more production from other areas, but you need someone like him to take over in a game. Like you just need it. Like I think Zach Benson has done a really good job of being an agitator, of being someone that can produce, and that's great. But you need more from your big guys like Alex Tuck. You need him to somewhat take over a game. He's a good power forward. He's a big guy, so you need something like that. And yeah, I mean, when you look at all of these guys, like who's been able to produce, who's not, I think Gabriel Landeskog has been a nice underrated producer, which is kind of crazy to say since he's over a point per game, but I think not a lot of people have talked about him. You know, I mentioned Alex Killorn, who's been really good, Mikael Granlund, Brett Howden, like all of these names, you know, they've really been subtle, solid producers for these teams. And I think that's one thing to keep in mind here when you look down this way or look down this list at least, is there's going to be guys here who have been producing, who have been good, that you need that depth scoring. And that I should mention, like, not in the playoffs anymore, but Kasperi Kapanen was a bright spot on that Oilers team where you had so many injuries to these big guys. You needed someone else to step up, just get them farther along. He was big for that. So shout out Kasperi Kapanen. And now let's get on to the last thing I want to talk about. Seems to be the biggest the biggest scandal of the NHL right now. And I don't know how people can call it a scandal, to be honest, because, well, it was live, and it's the NHL entry draft that will be coming up in June. We now know the spots that were done and drawn because the lottery draft happened. The Toronto Maple Leafs end up winning it. I think they were at 8.5% to start at the time of the last ball happening, and this was the same percentage for a lot of these teams. It was at 9.1%. So they won this with 9.1%. San Jose jumps up 7 spots. Vancouver falls to 3. That's the lowest they can fall. That's tough for Vancouver. I think you're hoping, to be honest, for a winger, a forward. You can still take one, right? Like, you can still get a guy like a Caleb Malhotra if you really feel like that's the guy you need to go after. I think the consensus right now is that the top 3 guys that we see here on the screen, McKenna, Stenberg, Reed, are probably going to go in the top 3. Just depends on how it's going to shake out. But I think there is some talk about a guy like Caleb Malhotra possibly going that high. He's been really good, 84 points in 67 games. He had 110 points if you're including the playoffs, where he had 26, right? So he was really good for the Brantford Bulldogs. He's going to be a little bit of a project, and what I mean by a project in this case is that he's just going to need some time to develop. He's not going to be. I don't think he's going to be able to step into the NHL right away. Now, maybe we have a Beckett Seneca type moment where he was on the Generals. No one expected him to take that jump, ends up earning a spot, and he's a finalist for the Calder. So maybe we have that. It's a rare case, but maybe we do. The Maple Leafs getting this one, I talked about this a little bit on my story, and the Leafs getting McKenna does not solve all of their problems. It doesn't. Like, that's just the truth, right? It helps, of course, getting a young name who's offensive-minded. That helps. But as we've seen with, the reports of Matthews wanting to see how this one goes, it's not going to solve all your problems. It's not going to solve your defense. That needs to be revamped. Probably more of a puck-moving, still big, but more of a puck-moving type core. You still need some good depth. You traded away a couple of names in Scott Laughton, Nick Waugh, guys who were more cost-effective at the time, but we're going to need new contracts. You have to figure out where you're going to go from here for the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Like John Chaika, Matt Sundin have a lot of decisions to make as the weeks approach. And I think a lot of the insiders and the people in media made good points in saying that the Leafs are trying to figure out what Austin Matthews wants to do. How is he feeling about the Leafs winning a lottery draft and doing this whole kind of rigmarole and however they want to call it? Do you demand an answer from Matthews? Because the whole thing right now is that you may not get an answer till July, just because he wants to see what signings are made, what trades are done, how this team's going to look to decide on his future. You might not have that much time. That's a scary thing to think about, but it's true. Now, I don't know what's going on with a guy like William Nylander in this case, or really any big name in that core. But I think there is a little bit of unease, right? Because if Matthews says, I want out, here are the 3 places I'm willing to go, or the 1 place I'm willing to go, how does William Nylander look at that? Like, he's productive enough where he can step in here and say, like, he's also a little bit older, but I think he can be productive enough where he can outlast some type of short rebuild and come out the other way still being productive. But he might also want to say, like, hey, like, I'm making a lot of money here. I've done good work for your team and your franchise. I kind of want to win. And if we're going through a rebuild, I don't want to be here. It's very fair. I'm not gonna punish him for it and be like, hey, no, you're under contract. You're staying. The Leafs could do that, right? But yeah, like, you have to see how everything's going to go. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Leafs do this. Like, Gavin McKenna is a godsend of a draft pick that you're going to get. Depends on what they're going to do with it. Maybe they take Ivar Stenberg. I don't know, right? I think you could have a little bit of a speaking point to that. It makes sense to take McKenna because he has the higher ceiling, but then you look at Ivar Stenberg, who could be this two-way, possibly 90-point guy who has a really high floor and could probably step into the NHL a lot easier than McKenna. I think that side's enticing. I think it is, and I know that's crazy to say. I get it. But it's an interesting way to look at it. Also, Matt Sundin, Swedish. Stenberg, Swedish. I don't think that's a real kind of talking point. But again, you never know. Maybe you watched him a little bit more and you've seen some things. So, yeah, San Jose possibly getting Stenberg is nuts. I think you can have that conversation about a guy like Chase Reed, right? And again, I know people, I posted something about my mock draft for the top 16 and who I thought was going to go. I put Chase Reed at 2. And people were saying, well, never draft for fit. Don't draft for fit. They might. They could trade that pick. And if they think Chase Reed's going to go 3 or 4, they could trade it. Right? Vancouver is desperate for a winger. They might overpay San Jose to go and do that. And San Jose might add pieces that they need. I'm just saying. It could be interesting. If they take... Now, what I will say is, if they take a guy like Ivar Stenberg, I really wonder what happens with a guy like William Eklund. I do. There's so many wingers. They have so many wingers. Such a bright future. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do at 2. Now, for Vancouver at 3, I think everything just depends on how crazy things could get. But again, if you get a guy like Chase Reed, offensive guy, good-minded, really shut up in this draft. There's been a lot of talk about Caleb Malhotra. They need a center. I wouldn't be surprised. His dad is head coach in Abbotsford, so, who knows? And then you got to have the guys like Keaton Verhoff, Carson Karls, Albert Smits. I'm really high on him. Viggo Bjork, Tynan Lawrence. There's a lot of good names here that was get down, but I think the big consensus here is that, McKenna drops a little, just a little bit, just drops a bit to Stenberg, and then it falls off, right? These names, like Reed, Malhotra, Verhoff, they're all good, but they're not up there with those two. They're just not. And I think, again, you can have that conversation about a McKenna and a Stenberg and what they could do, but at the end of the day, I think that's just the way that you need to go. So, yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about for this podcast. So much happened in this past week, so I appreciate you following along here. If you have not already, make sure you go like, subscribe, ring that bell, and comment. I want to hear what all of you have thought about this episode that I talked about. Maybe if you disagree with something that I said. I really do appreciate the feedback here. But of course, till next time, my name is Zach Staden, and we'll be talking soon.